Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. We're speaking with John Rogers of the America First Works division of AFPI. And again, lots of people in different places. Ashley Hayek has moved on to the presidency of America First Works, and she's doing a great job there. She'll be back with us in the next couple of weeks. But John, I was thinking, Trump closed the gap in New Jersey. He closed the gap in New York State by about 11 points. That was closer than anybody thought it was going to be. And when you look at the aggressive nature with which the DOJ audits and everything else that has taken place in a previous kind of season of politics in America, you would have thought that this would be a man who would be unpopular, because what you would see is the press really hammering him as hard as they possibly could, right? I mean, that's what we think. And his approval rating seems to be holding. And the media doesn't like it, and the Democrats don't like it, but the American people are seeing what he's getting done and going, yeah, what about all of this recklessness on our tax dime?
That's exactly right. And to me, the most baffling thing is the Democrats are actually fighting it.
Yeah.
They're piling lawsuit after lawsuit trying to stop this from happening.
Well, it's their gravy train. They don't want to lose the funding.
And it's wildly popular with the American people. I mean, it's amazing to me to watch them literally trip over themselves to try and stop DOJ and the president from making the changes that the American people just voted for him to make.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
Well, I don't know how that's going to work its way, but it brings us to another important point, and that is that courts count. What do we know about judicial elections for 2025?
Yeah, the two hot ones for 2025, number one, which is coming, I think it's 55 days away on beginning of April, is the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. For anybody who is passionate about election integrity, worries about election integrity, this should be top on your list right now of things to do, which is to find a way to get involved in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Right now, it's a 4-3 Dem bench. They are the bench that pushed through a lot of the sort of legalized cheating that went on, where they're just trying to pump as much paper, just like undocumented paper out onto the streets as they possibly can. And
when you say paper,
recourse.
You're talking about ballots, because under COVID protocols, they cheated big time.
I mean, they just were pumping as many ballots onto the streets as they possibly can with no accountability.
Yeah. It didn't matter if the person listed on it existed or if they still lived at the right address or any of that. It was just get it out there as much as possible. And
no
then
the
backside of that is they had two things. They had bad signature verification, and then they had harvesting operations. So if you don't have to prove who signed it and you can go gather them back all up again, you can do a lot. You can make a lot of mischief with that.
Yeah, and then you have a court that's like an activist Supreme Court that'll just back you up on it. They're like, yeah, you don't really need a signature for this. That's crazy, right? It's like, that's not what we should be doing here in America. Like, there are other countries where I think they paint your thumb purple in some states if you vote. And like, we can barely even get people to prove that they say who they are. God forbid that we do that. So this race is a really hot one. In 2023, one of these seats were up. It was at the time, the most expensive judicial race in the history of the United States of America. And we got grossly outspent. And they seemed to be up to it again, because they realized that this is, number one, their way that they can protect any of these ballot integrity measures, that they can just have a Supreme Court that's basically activist Democrats that are just going to back up anything that they're doing. Number two, abortion came in front of this court once and will come in front of it again. And so for anybody that cares about election integrity or abortion, this really matters. This also super duper matters because at some point in time, redistricting is going to come back around again. And this bench that we're electing now is going to be the ones that's going to be watching that. So they're
going to decide boundary lines?
Yeah, for congressional races. So they have the ability up there to draw one or two lines out if they so choose. And if they're anything like Pennsylvania, which I'll talk about in a second, if they're anything like Pennsylvania, the court can just up and make them redraw it if they wanted to, which is what happened in Pennsylvania. Another state that has Supreme Court races, two Dem retention races up this year. And that is about as activist the Dem bench as you're going to find in the world. They are active, like they basically there was a map that was accepted by the state house, the state senate, signed by the governor, and the state Supreme Court, which is effectively the Democratic Party in the state of Pennsylvania, just had them up and redraw it, and then drew Republican districts out magically.
Yeah, it was really a scandal. We covered that here. All right, Kevin McCullough thanking John Rogers for joining us for the first time. John, we'll talk to you again soon at AFPI. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.